G'day, and welcome to the Job Pedal podcast. My name is Nelson, and I must admit I've been very fearful on the way here because I have the headmaster in the office. Well, not really, as you can probably tell by my facial hair, I'm not of school age, but my boss, who instills the fear of me like my headmaster did when he calls me and says, "You got to come in at this time." I'm like, what have I done wrong?
Not at all, Nelson. It's always good to have you here, mate, and I'm pleased to be here in the studio talking about some important points.
That's exactly right. So. Let's get into the meat and potatoes because
yes.
Main course is served, entree finished.
Right on.
We're discussing the control of citizens' money by banks and governments. It's a cause you've been championing for quite a long time.
It has been, it has been, Nelson. For some time, I've always been a little concerned about the banking system, financial system, governments, how they're controlling us as a community in secret.
Yeah.
Big concern.
What's made you so interested in the banking and finance sector?
Well, it happened some time ago when I became aware of the challenging nature of our banking system. I should say more aware of the challenging banking system when a sector student informed me that he needed to withdraw $7,000 in cash from his bank, but was informed by his bank that he could only withdraw $2,000 cash, and that's why I started some research on this matter.
I'm glad you have, because we're seeing a lot of examples now across Western countries where banks and governments have the power to control their citizens' money. Can you elaborate on that? Because I think a lot of people would assume that's limited to perhaps the communist world.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's not just the communist countries, third world countries. The government and banks in certain countries across the Western world have significant authority in managing financial transactions, and they can monitor and freeze bank accounts based on individuals' behaviour or even their political views. In February last year, you would have known that Canada's Deputy Prime Minister at the time, she was saying that banks are obligated to freeze or suspend accounts financing the truckies' illegal blockades. And in Australia, there are a growing number of bank branches now where they no longer handle cash at the counter.
Yeah, and that's particularly concerning because there is a range of viewpoints over the legality of what the truckies were doing, and there is a lot of suggestions that was actually quite a partisan thing to do, as opposed to upholding the rule of law. And now we go to the United Kingdom, where Peter Flavell, who was the CEO of luxury bank Coutts, he became the latest senior British banking figure to resign amid a bit of row over Nigel Farage's personal finances. Nigel Farage is, of course, the orchestrator of the Brexit movement, a very significant figure in UK politics. Duncan, what happened there?
Yeah, well, according to a brief from Farage, the Coutts Bank cancelled his account because of the bank's reputational risk committee, described as having xenophobic, chauvinistic and racist views, and citing Nigel Farage's comments on Brexit, whereas he was the driving force behind Brexit. The concern raises questions of the practice of banks censoring free speech, and free speech is just tantamount to democracy, just by closing customer accounts, and that practice should draw criticism right across our community due to its potential impact on our whole society, and it's going to be detrimental if that does take place.
That's right. And over the pond now in the United States, where a fellow called Hugh Henry, he's a hedge fund manager, he alleged that monetary policy had increased the probability for banks to limit cash withdrawals for their customers.
Yeah, well, I know that Henry said to Bloomberg Markets, the situation is so dire that the US Treasury may have to come in and restrict your right as a US citizen to pull the money out of the US banking sector. Yeah, he further stated the fact that we no longer live in an environment where it seems prudent to have all of your money in the banking system, and that's another concern.
That's
right. In the US.
And so many people do.
Yep.
What do you think people can do to address this? I mean, we're not talking about big systemic changes, but just for the individual.
Well, as a layman, I'd say maintaining the option of physical cash is so important. It's whether it's be in the way of coin, whether it be in the way of notes, it's important that we have cash. Cash is given out not by banks. It's actually printed by governments.
Mm.
The banks control the digital currency. That's their currency. But governments give us the cash. It has a right for us as a citizen to pay things by cash.
Yep.
And this is kind of deluding a lot of people right throughout the industry now. So, and the great thing about cash, it provides that independence of the digital transactions lack that I was talking about. Cash acts as an alternative means of conducting transactions when the digital systems fall over or they fail. The other thing I would say that we should be looking at, and that is investing in gold. Gold's is going up, and it looks like it's going to keep on increasing.
Gold's always been around.
It has been,
almost as certain as death or taxes.
That's right. It's the little gold nuggets have been around for forming for millions of years, and it's only a matter of finding them. But I would say, yeah, definitely investing in gold, storing money securely in a home safe is a wise practice, regardless of the amount, whether it's $2,000 or $20,000. That provides a form of personal financial protection.
Yep. Just like my nonna always said, do not trust the banks. Keep the money under the bed.
Yeah, that's it. I think Malcolm Fraser told us some years ago.
What's the matter, you? Do not trust the banks. Why you look so sad? They've frozen your accounts. It's a nicer place. Anyway, what else can we do?
Well, as I say, Malcolm Fraser was, when he was Prime Minister, he actually recommended for us then to put the money under the bed. But additionally, what we can do is purchase a piggy bank for our children, and that can serve as an incentive for them to save their pocket money because... Nelson, I don't know whether that happened to you as a school child, but it did to me. But the Commonwealth Bank were giving out these little piggy banks. They were like a made out of a tin Commonwealth Bank branch, and I remember putting lots and lots of pennies at the time. I only had pennies and threepence and that type of thing. And you were also given a bank book as well, so you were encouraged.
Yes.
To open up a bank.
I actually recall going to the teller to do that too. I recall the whole experience.
Yeah, it's a big thing.
It was a big thing.
Well, that's diminishing now. Yeah,
it's a shame.
It is a shame, yeah. And it's not just the Commonwealth Bank, the National Bank, Westpac, ANZ. Unfortunately, they're closing down the ATMs, they're closing down the bank branches, and yeah.
These kids just don't get it.
Nope.
Speaking of Commonwealth Bank, in a bit more of a negative light now, they actually recently had a system failure. I think a lot of people would remember that impacted thousands of retailers.
Yeah.
Tell us what happened there.
Yeah, well, and that wasn't that long ago. The online system crashed, and that left customers unable to access their CBA net bank accounts, forcing some retailers to accept only cash, and that posed a problem for some customers who rely solely on digital transactions. They're not walking around with $20 or $50 in their wallet anymore.
My housemate, for instance, was actually screwed when that happened.
Yeah.
He wasn't able to get his money. He was left in the lurch. I had to help him out, and I'm a bit of the Grinch, you understand, Duncan. I don't like to give around money. I'm not a selfless person, so I was enraged by the whole experience.
Of course you would, knowing you, Nelson.
Yes. Yeah, I'm stingy as they come. Did you come across any stories of those affected?
Yeah, well, in the Telegraph, I read where there was one frustrated customer, the Grumpy Baker, which is a great name for a baker, and they said, don't carry cash anymore. So it highlights a reliance on digital payments and the importance of alternative options during this disruptions. Previous customer I heard about at the ANZ Bank, and they expressed their discontent on social media, which went viral after being unable to withdraw cash from a bank branch, and that was just the other week.
Really?
She received advice to transfer her funds to another bank in order to access cash. That advice came from her own bank, and consequently she decided to move all her money to a different bank and subsequently closed her ANZ account. Wow. So we've got this ongoing shift towards a digital economy, and it's important for us as a society to resist this trend. It's extremely important. We have to strive to impede any corporate transitions away from cash.
And as always, a reminder to have a backup plan. Mm-hmm. Okay, kids, backup plan, important. Hear it from the big dog. Okay.
That's it. Yep. Have your cash. It's something that I would also say it's thought-provoking discussion, and it always is when it comes down to the fact that we as individuals have to be very careful as to what we wish for.
Yes.
So just take that on board.
Careful what you wish for.
Very careful with what you wish for.
Duncan, thanks so much for coming on and
Yep.
sharing your insights on this topic today. It's very
No problem.
important. It actually isn't spoken about enough, I find, in media. And as always, you raise thought-provoking points. It's been a pleasure to chat with you.
Oh yeah, and the financial independence and security are crucial considerations, and let's hope we keep these discussions going. Thanks again.
No worries. Thank you, Duncan.